Welcome to Train Real World. My name is Stephen, also known as MegaSim, and today's video is of the HST Power Car move, Class 43025 from Ely to Ruddington. Now you've seen the HST move already on the MegaSim channel, but we're going to be delving a little deeper into this HST, into this power car 43025. Also a little bit of information about the HST itself, and also some unseen footage from the previous video that you've seen. So let's get going. This is 43025's move from Ely to Ruddington. So as you already know, 43025 is a Western region HST. It always has been, and I'm not going to say it always will be, but this is a Great Western HST power car. It was ordered 22nd of January 1974 as part of a lot that was ordered from British Rail. And this was the first production HST order destined primarily for the Paddington to Bristol and the South Wales routes. Now the HST was built in Crewe and was released from them 21st of August 1976. Now as you can see, this is not the original engine. The original engine that came with this HST power car was the Paxman Valenta. A gorgeous sound. The turbo sound on that engine was absolutely gorgeous. Now for me at my age, I did hear the Valenta engines, but nowadays we just have the MTU and we have the Paxman VP185. But my mind just can't go back. I watch videos and I remember that sound, I remember the clag, the smoke, but I really don't have a great memory of seeing, of hearing the Paxman engine. But it's so good that this loco is being saved from the destination that some of the others will go, and that is the scrapyard. 1976 this train was released, as I've said already, so that just means that it is quite old. It's 47 years old, almost 47 years old. Now it's had some changes, as we said, new engine, new bits in the cab, new roof, new vents, new everything pretty much. I'm guessing the only thing that hasn't really changed is the outside shell. The bogies have changed, the cab may have even been changed. We don't know. It might have done. You need to have a look at a little bit more history about this. And once the paperwork of the service history of this power car is made available, we will be able to go into a little bit more detail on if there were any big major changes, apart from, as I said, the usual bogie change, the usual battery change, the MTU engine change, all of that side of things. But as you can see in this loco, what is really good about this power car is just before it got sent away, there was a load of updates. It got new bogies, new wheels, it got new batteries, it's got a new roof. That roof is amazing compared to some of the others that I've seen, and you've probably seen as well. Now the paintwork on the outside may not look amazing. Down the side it has the lovely spray paint from Brush, but the front cab has had a brush paint, so not from Brush, as in a paintbrush from Lera, so that's why it has gone that sort of texture, and also where it has been patched up. Now we know that it was released into traffic in October 1976, and first of all it was allocated to Old Oak Common. So Old Oak Common was where it was based, and it was part of the set 253012. So the Western Region Intercity 125s in the blue, you know, the original Intercity colours, they were put into sets So you'd always have the same front and the same back. And this was 43025 and 43024. Now, in the end, you know, when they started changing things, they were like, well, it's getting difficult trying to put the same power car together. So that's why these 253 numbers were eventually scrapped. Not the loco, but you know what I mean. But just having a look in this engine room, as I said, I went through there quite a few times. I even hit my head. But you can see those rocker covers there in the green. Now, Great Western, the MTU engine is in a variety of different colours. We have seen red, we have seen the green, we have seen gold, and I think I've seen silver. No, pink. Pink was another one. It was a gold or silver? Can't remember now. But even just the back of this power car here, as you can see just to the left of the door, you can see where there was a window, and on the side bit just there as well, that's where the guard used to sit. At the very beginning, before they found that the noise was and the vibrations were too much for the guard, and he had to sit in one of the carriages. Later on, the HST cars that were built later after that don't have the panel there. It's just like one. But yeah, they have filled that in. Now, it didn't quite make it into passenger service on day one of the 125 mile an hour timetable. So that was the 4th of October 1976, but it was engaged on crew training duties. So we had all the Great Western train crew, and they were training on this, probably looking at all the safety features, the AWS, the TPWS, you know, all of that side of things. To make sure that they were all right with with driving this power car itself. So this effectively was a training vehicle before it went into proper service. Now, in May 1985, it was reallocated to Leicester, which is down in Plymouth. That is where it stayed. Leicester was where it stayed there. As you can see just there, you even see the Buckeye on the back is almost new as well. So this loco is a pretty decent and refurbished example to be able to be fully restored back onto mainline duty. Now, in 25th of April 1994, it actually received its first nameplates, and it was called Exeter. And it was unveiled during the station stop of Plymouth to Paddington. It had been named Glorious Devon before that as well. Now, what was unusual for this HST, the plates were of a loco type with larger lettering. So it was almost like a Class 50 lettering that was used on these nameplates. Now, hopefully this power car will see nameplates in the future. We don't know what it's going to be called. Could it be called Exeter? Could it be called one of the other nameplates that it was named over the years, or just depot plates or something? We don't know. That's something that the 125 group and the generous donator with the generous donation will choose. Because remember, this is a Western region HST power car. Will this be in the blue that we currently see it in, or will it be will it be painted in one of the older liveries? What older liveries have we got? Well, we've got the Intercity Blue, we've got the Intercity Swallow, we've got the Great Western Merlin, so the first privatisation. You've got Fag Packet, it's a great name, isn't it? You've got Barbie, you've got all sorts of different liveries that this could be put in, but we don't know yet. But this paint at the moment is in quite good nick. There are some touch-ups that will need to be done, but the paint is in good condition compared to other locos that we saw at Ely, at the depot there. Now, as you can see, Reed Freight are pulling or towing the power car off the tracks onto the road itself before it is then placed on the cable system that's on the trailer itself. Because that would take too long. So it's pulling it, which just looks pretty epic. And also just listening to the train being moved, because it was moved around Ely a few times, but as we know that, well, we haven't got to that stage yet. Why am I getting ahead of myself? Now, It did, oh, actually, I was wrong earlier. It did swap allocation and went to Bristol St Philip's March, and that became its home before the launch of the Greater Western franchise. So it was an augmented HST operation where all Great Western power cars were planned for engined. So it was sent to Brush in Loughborough on the 26th of September 2006, and it was re-engineered and the MTU conversion was sorted. And it was released 7th of December and reallocated to Landor. 4 days later, before again moving on, February 2007, reallocated to Lera once again. Unfortunately, there was a spate of flyers with the new engines as MTU got to grips with the demanding HST duty cycle. And actually 43025 was a victim of that and actually had to return to Brush on 23rd of October 2007. It stayed there quite a while. 15th of May 2008 was when it came out of being fixed. So there was a nasty fire in there, but thankfully it did survive that. Now, when the MTU conversion happened, the Exeter nameplates were lost, as in it was taken off, and it actually received the Institution of Railway Operators nameplate, 10 years promoting operational excellence. And they were large cast plates, which included the IRO's logo, which were unveiled in a ceremony in 2010 in Swindon. Now, with the running down of the fleet, especially with the IETs, the Class 800s, 802s, the Flying Cucumber, whatever you want to call it, the ironing board seated train, 43025 was taken off lease on the 7th of April 2019. And then 4 days later, its final working had been undertaken a few days earlier in March, when it worked the 5 Lima 46 service 935 from Lera to Ely. And actually, if you look at videos online on YouTube, you will see some videos of this loco with actually its other sister, 43024. They were paired together with the carriages with the Mark III sets, which was the original 253012, travelled from Lera to Ely. And that's where it remained until the 1st of May 2023, when it was acquired by the 125 Group after a generous donation from a member. Now this is where 43025 is now going up the ramp onto the trailer itself. So a lot of creaking and banging, which it just looked pretty amazing. It's a once in a lifetime thing to see, to witness. So thankfully we're able to capture this all in 4K. So I'm glad that you are able to watch this as well and watch history in the making, that this loco will hopefully be back on the main line pretty soon. Current checks and things like that looking good at the moment. But they still need to start that engine. They still need to do some additional checks. But other than certain things being removed or switched off, like ATP, this engine is in good nick. The battery looks good. The bogies have still got quite a few miles on them on the clock. Overall it is an amazing loco. It may look a little rusty or a little dirty here and there, but that's just because it's been sitting there since 2019. So that's 4 years it's been sat in Ely with Angel Trains. So this is where we've got some unseen footage. I stuck a GoPro on the windscreen, and this is the Reed truck pulling the loco itself, the power car. I'm trying not to say train because I did say that in my previous video, and I got a lot of comments going, it's not a train. Anyway, here it is being pulled along, and then the cable from the trailer is linked, and then it starts making its way up onto the trailer itself. Now this trip itself went through a load of different routes, up the M1 as well, A453, all the way to Ely, and we even made a stop at the services. If only we could have fueled up the truck, that would have been pretty epic. But that is for some footage that we've got coming up anyway. So now the loco is on the truck itself, as you can see, and it's actually pointing the correct way. I always wanted it to be pointing so the front of the train is facing to the back of the trailer, because how amazing, how epic does that look? And we're going to be seeing that shortly, how it would look on the motorway with the train pointing right there. Now, as you can see, the retransport guys are chaining up the train, making sure that it is fully secure on there. You can't just use some blocks to stop it rolling off. You need to properly chain it up using all the available areas of the bogies of the chassis, making sure that it's fully fixed down as it travels that. I think it was about 3-4 hours to get to Ruddington. So as we're looking round the loco itself, not fully chained up yet, as you can see, but that will slowly be done. And this is where the time is taken, making sure it is chained up. And also the blocks to put the ramp on and off. That's the bit that takes the time. And you'll see that later, where it's light when it arrives at Ruddington, then it goes dark, because it just takes a long time to unsecure and make sure the ramp is ready to put it back on the rails. As you can see, we've got quite a few wheels on the back of the trailer. There is one set that have been lifted up. Due to the weight, it didn't need that additional pair of wheels, but they will be coming in handy later in the video. Now, it's nice to see the front of the Class 43. There's the inside of there, and a lot of these HST power cars, their front parts inside are quite different. You know, back in the day, if you look at all the training videos, you know, switch the light on. I went to one the other day and there was no light. It was a totally different look inside compared to what 025 looked like. So yeah, there's some different locos, especially in the front. Now, you will have the hook and the tow bar. They're all the same, but actually inside some of those bits are different. Now, here we go. The lorry has turned around, gone to the other end, and now it's time to link it up. Now, this lorry is one beast. That system there, that pneumatic system is so advanced. Just being able to lift the weight of the HST is just pretty epic.
Yeah. Up to one. Wait that.
So as you can see, 43025 is all fully secure, ready and raring to go. Just a reminder, we were there officially. We were allowed to be in Ely. Please don't go and hang over the vents and try and take photos and do drone shots and things like that. Remember, this is private land. You've got to be really careful here. Now, we were here officially. We were able to film as long as it was footage of the loco itself, because it was sold. But right behind me here are a load of HST locos. Now, I think they've been moved now, but there are a load there. LNER, EMR, Class 465s, you name it. There was tons of stuff there. But I can't film it. I can't show you because it's not owned by... Well, it's owned by Angel still, and they don't want you to take any footage of that. Now, if you do want to see some of that, there are some YouTube channels that do show some drone shots, but as I said, I know they're out there, but please be careful. This is private property. I don't want you getting in trouble. Again, we were there officially. Now, the wheels have been pneumatically raised, so the actual truck itself, the trailer, is higher than it should be, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. So the bad thing is because it needs to be lower for bridges. This train at the moment, this loco, this power car is too high and it will hit bridges. But the bridge is going under in tunnels and things. But this bridge itself that we're on is kind of weighted and it's laid over the top. And unfortunately, there have been times where things have been taken, as in officially, but the lorry drivers have scraped it and damaged the bridge and all sorts of different things. So the trailer is higher than it should be as it goes over this bridge, but that is just a safety precaution to make sure that we get over it. And then what we will do now is we will get out of the car and watch them lower the trailer. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to park up and lower this trailer so it is in line. And this is the thing, they know the height of the loco, so they need to know the height of the wheels and the trailer, and that's what they're going to do. And it's a trusty measuring tape that we're going to be using. Something simple but always needed in this sort of scenario. And this is the thing, going on these journeys you need to make sure constantly that it is going to be the right height. So as you can see, it needs to be changed up a little bit here, lower a little bit on the other side, just to ensure that the height of this loco is able to get under the bridges. Now, we did go past some lorries on the motorway. You know, you've seen those big lorries, the double-decker lorries, the B&M lorries and all of them, which are pretty high. Now, this was, I thought it was higher, this one, than anything else, but we did go past a couple and they were higher than the loco itself. And I am sitting here looking out the window whilst filming this, so I've got it showing on my laptop, but I can see a kite, a bird, just sitting on a branch of our willow tree, just resting, because we've got glorious hot sun at the moment, but there's just been a thunderstorm. We lost Wi-Fi, we lost the internet for about half an hour. There was a power cut and it was torrential rain and lightning and thunder. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but here it is, 43025. How good does that look on the back of that trailer, being saved, going to a new home in Ruddington? Now, I said we were going to be looking at a little bit of history of the HST itself. So we know that the power cars were built between 1975 and 1982. And they've been in service since 1976. Now, the current operators of the HST power car are ScotRail Trains, Cross Country, Great Western Railway, Rail Adventure, Colas Rail and Network Rail. Now, the Colas Rail and the Network Rails are probably very similar because Colas Rail usually use their power cars on the Network Rail routes, or on the Network Rail trains. So we've seen them, the track measuring units, the one with the big blue light that beams out at night or in the day. The one that was the XEMR, that looked pretty cool. You've got the LNER or EMR or whatever you want to call it, VTEC, red ones that do need a nice repaint now. And that Colas Rail, The one that was like that reddy orangey brownie with the yellow on the back, that looks pretty epic as well. As I said already as well, the Rail Adventure guys, they've got the ones with the buffers. So they do a lot of transporting other trains and freight. Oh, I haven't seen freight, but I've seen other trains being pulled by it. So it's kind of taking trains up and down to Liverpool, to South West Railway, etc. And cross country, we know that in October cross country will be stopping. Oh, wait a minute. I love this truck. Now, I think the silencer on it has been removed, but it sounded amazing. Let's listen. Now, I will admit, I fell asleep until I got woken up with a bang. One of the tyres burst on the trailer. It got too hot and it burst. Now, they had to call people to try and get that swapped. So we drove off to the nearest services because we were needing the loo. Thankfully, we had that spare set of wheels, didn't we? And what happened? Well, it was the one that was burst got moved up and the spare wheels got moved down. Then it was time to go into the services. We went to the Leicester Services. And the reason why is because during the rush hour, trailers of this weight cannot be on the motorway due to the rush hour of traffic. So we did have to come off for a little bit. But that was good. We had a little bit of a Chinese, a little bit of noodles and rice and a bit of sweet and sour chicken. I think one of the guys had a KFC. But yeah, we had a nice meal there before getting back on the road. As you can see, look at that. It looked pretty good. Except when it was reversing back towards that lorry there. The truck there, he was in there and he got a bit scared because he thought they were going to keep going. But no, it was good and we stayed and had a nice meal and kept going. Now previously, British Rail, of course, had the HST, Great Western Trains, Virgin Trains West Coast, Virgin Cross Country, Midland Main Line, Cotswold Rail, GNER, Network Express East Coast, remember when it was government owned for a bit, Virgin Trains East Coast, or VTEC as we call it, LNER, London North Eastern Railway, Grand Central had the buffer cars, didn't they? East Midlands Trains, Hull Trains, East Midlands Railway, and also a Bellio ScotRail. Now some of those buffer ones, they were Angel trains. They were used by East Midlands as well, East Midlands Trains. So Grand Central used them before they had the 180 Adelantes. But yeah, it was also used by East Midlands. Now, the Class 43 is officially the fastest diesel locomotive in the world. So the absolute maximum speed it was able to go was 148.5 miles per hour. That's 239 kilometres. Now the regular speed service speed is 125 miles an hour, hence the name of the vehicle, the power car, the Intercity 125. I know I shouldn't be talking about it, but you know the Intercity 225, which is the Class 91 LNER. 225 meaning 225 kilometres. The service speed should be 140 miles an hour, but the rails only limit you to 125. Now the record run was led by 43102, which then turned into 43302. That is at the, I believe it's at the NRM. But the rear of it, 43159, is actually at 125 Group. So if you are going to visit them, 43159 is in their collection as well. So some good things that are from that. Now, talking of the HST itself, so back in the 70s, the mainline express diesel traction wasn't great. It was old. It went from steam to diesel and a few electrics. But the diesel traction, the finance was tight. So mass electrification wasn't possible. I know they tried to do it on some of the things, but not throughout. And to this day, Midland Main Line is still waiting for electrification. So a new generation of high-speed diesel trains had to be developed. Now, the Deltic was kind of the experience they had, and that low axle weight was essential to avoid damage to the track. So high-speed engines were the only way to provide a good enough power-to-weight ratio for diesels. And that's why the diesel engine, the 12-cylinder Paxman Valenta, was used in the HST, in the power car itself. Now, we know that the APT, the Advanced Passenger Train, was truly going to be the train that was going to be taking over the UK. But, as we know, with media and issues and tilting problems, it didn't work out. Now, there was a gas version and an electric version. And, funny enough, the HST was a stopgap. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. It was supposed to be temporary. You're not supposed to have these going for 50 years. Well, that's what they thought. And that's where you had the prototype, the Class 41, that was engineered with the Paxman Valenta. Now, you may have seen videos of the Class 41 where it was restored. The Paxman Valenta was put in, it was refurbished, it looked pretty decent. But it doesn't look the same as the Class 43. Now, why is that? Well, the window was smaller. It only had one seat in there. Now, back in the day, with BR, you always had two guys sitting in the front of the train. A driver and his assistant. Now, I can't remember what the assistant's called, so I'm sorry. But they tried to go, no, you just need one driver. Now, we all know that it's now one driver. But back in those days, they were going to strike. They were not happy that there was only one seat. And that's why the HST, the 43, had the bigger window to compensate and have the two seats. As you just probably saw, we went past the Ratcliffe Power Station. And that actually, the Ratcliffe Power Station is a symbol for Toton Depot as well. If you've seen those depot nameplates or depot plates that get put on locos, Lara is a pirate ship, and Ratcliffe Toton is the Ratcliffe Power Station. Now, the two prototype cars for the Class 41 emerged in June and August 1972. And then they were reclassified as 252, hence, the 253 train for Great Western. Now, these power cars look pretty decent, but as I said, you did have that train, the screen got redesigned. And also, it doesn't have conventional buffers. There is a rigid drawbar that can be used to connect an HST to an ordinary locomotive, but due to the speed and the just being one train, they didn't need the buffers. There was no need for them. And it was just all about the aerodynamics as well, and how much better do they look. Now, I know, Rail Adventure, they have the buffers. They do look cool having buffers, but that's not the HST, is it? A HST does not have buffers. It is streamlined, and it looks amazing. Now, as I've said, the Paxman Valenta was the first engine that went in there. Now, British Rail did experiment with the Merley's Blackstone MB190. Now, some of you have commented on the previous video on MegaSim, are you going to put an MB190 engine in there? No. There were only 4 Western Region examples that had them. But it was unsuccessful, and the Paxman Valenta was reinstalled. Now, this is where Paxman then started creating the VP185. Now, the VP185s have the same horsepower as all the others, or as the MTU, but the VP185 is a weaker model. It does take a little bit longer to get to those speeds and get to that power. But the VP185s were chosen by the East Midland team. So the Midland Main Line have the VP185s, whereas most other locos, most other HST power cars have the MTU engine, which is we call it the Rolls Royce of engines, because a Rolls Royce badge should be on there. So Midland Main Line had the VP185 power cars, and then the Paxman Valenta is only in the Class 41, and soon to have a Paxman Valenta in a Class 43. That's something 125 Group are working on, but they are only putting it in one power car. Because of the age of the Valenta and the spare parts, they're only going to be putting it into one power car. So no more questions. All the others are going to stay as MTU because they can still be serviced. Parts are still kind of available for them. So they are all going to stay with that. Now we've arrived into Ruddington. As you can see, the sun is setting and we're just waiting for the loco to arrive. We raced on ahead, so we made sure that gates were all open and we were ready for this loco to arrive. It just looked amazing coming through those trees to its new home in Ruddington. Now 125 Group is spread out between Ruddington and also Midland Railway Butterley. So Midland Railway Butterley are having some services soon. Hopefully this video is going to be out before then. 1st and 2nd of July, if you go to Midland Railway Butterley, you can book tickets now online to go on, not this loco, because this is at Ruddington, but the other power cars that are currently there. But yeah, it's pretty decent with some Mark III coaches on there going back and forth from Butterley to Swanwick. But yeah, if you haven't been on a HST, I know it's not going to go 125 miles an hour, but go on it because it is pretty decent. And there's some good merch there. And also, I don't know if you're like me. Now, I grew up on Thomas the Tank Engine. But do you remember there was also another one about tugs? And it was called Tugs, the same creators, Brit, that created it. So they've also got tugs there. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be open on those days, but you can get to see some of the original models from the film set of tugs. And when I last went, they actually had some Thomas the Tank Engine things as well. It did look pretty intense going over that gravel there with the wheels scraping along. We were worried there was going to be another tyre blowout, but thankfully there wasn't. So now it's a little bit of reversing. Can you see just to the right there was a digger? Funnily enough, that day they were filling in a hole, which didn't help us tremendously because of the dirt that was surrounding it. There was a lot of dirt in the rails, so we'll find out that in a little bit. But it was really difficult to get it back on the rails and move to a certain point because there was limited space to be able to put this loco. But yeah, at the moment, ScotRail have got HSTs up in Scotland. You've got GWR currently till the end of December, down on the Cardiff to Penzance routes. You've got the cross country from Edinburgh to Plymouth. That's until October. Now, as of recording, I do have another trip on a HST. I hope it is. I hope it's not going to be a Voyager. Or at the end of June, I'm heading down to the coast for some work, so I will be travelling on the HST cross country once again, and I'm really looking forward to that as well. It's not once in a lifetime thing, but if you haven't been on one, you have got to go on one. That's what you need to do. You need to go on one whilst you still can, whilst you can go at some speed. Now, if it's just a little journey, go from Derby to Birmingham or Derby to Tamworth. As long as you're not stuck behind another train, you go 120 miles per hour. I think that's the fastest I've been on a HST in this current, last few years, is 120 from Burton to Tamworth. It's pretty quick. As you can see, it is getting dark here now on this, so the van is being moved around because it's got all the bits in to then create that ramp down there. As you can see now, they've unfastened it all, unchained it, and now bringing it down onto the track itself. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video and my narration. It may have been boring, I don't know. You may have really enjoyed it, but hopefully you did. And if you do like my videos, give it a thumbs up, lets me know that you care, and subscribe for more videos. As you know, MegaSim has had Train Real Worlds for a couple of years now, but we are at the point where we want to separate it, just to kind of separate it from software gaming and Train Real World. And we've got so many amazing videos coming up over these next couple of months that are all edited, ready and raring to go, that were going on MegaSim but are now going on Train Real World. But I will see you on the next video. I'm going to leave you watching this power car being placed on its tracks in Ruddington, where it will stay to be restored before we come back to it in a few months, and hopefully it will be good news, load of testing. The plan is get it back on the main line. My name's Stephen. Thank you for watching Train Real World, and I'm also MegaSim, so I'll see you soon, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.